journey through this life, we will all stumble. It is how we stand after we stumble that will show the measure of a servant's heart. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Mike. I'd like to ask Keith Burwell to come to the floor mic to lead us in the four-way test. Okay, I'll circle back. Normally at this time we'd be thanking our monthly meeting sponsor, but it happens that we do not have one for February yet. So if any of you would like to sponsor our meetings for the month of February, please reach out to Jackie today in person, or you can email her. Do we have any guests in the room? If you do, please bring them up to the floor mic.
Madam President, I wish to introduce a first-time visitor for us, Jacqueline Banks, and she is with the Fair Housing Center of Toledo.
Hey everybody, today I've got Robin Molly Pichon with EA Lewis Consulting.
Hi everybody.
Hello everyone. Today I have with me Jenny Walter, and she is our donor advisor for the state of Ohio for the Alzheimer's Association.
Good afternoon, President Cindy and fellow Rotarians. I'd like to introduce my guest, Shannon Roof. Shannon is the managing officer of the local Berkshire Hathaway office.
Good afternoon. My pleasure is actually to introduce a guest with me, actually our City of Toledo at-large Councilwoman Katie Moline.
I'd like to introduce my guest, Hannah Arnold. Hannah is a new associate attorney in our law firm Eastman and Smith, and she's a prospective board member, and I think Mark Urruti has some ideas for her too.
Welcome. It's really nice to see so many guests here today. I know that we have a few visiting Rotarians. We have Dustin, who will be our presenter today from the Reynolds Corner, but if the others would like to go to the floor mic and introduce themselves, be great. That's like putting you on the spot.
Hello, everybody. Haifa Hailu with Reynolds Corner Rotary, and I am with Tutor Smart. So thank you for having me.
Welcome. Could Mark Urrutia join us? Oops, I think I went out. Could Mark Urrutia?
Yes, I have a couple announcements today. One, Rotaract. Some of you have heard about Rotaract. We are sponsoring the newest Rotaract club, the Toledo Area Rotaract Club. It will be a community-based Rotaract club designed for young professionals through their early 30s and college students. Where's Hannah? Come on up, wherever you are. I saw you earlier. Yes, Hannah, as Louise mentioned, is an estate planning attorney through Eastman and Smith. She was drafted, volunteered, / excited about being probably one of our new leaders for the Rotaract Club. We are asking you as Rotarians and guests and visiting Rotarians to nominate potential Rotaractors by sending their information to Jackie at the Rotary office or letting one of us know. We do have a committee of people that are working on helping them getting started. Our first activity with the new Rotaractors is going to be joining us at our member engagement happy hour this Thursday, Thursday the 16th, beginning at 4:30 at My Way Bistro on Monroe Street in Sylvania. That's the old Tony Pacco's there on Monroe Street. And we'll be inviting Rotaractors to attend as well. and that'll be serving as kind of the kickoff social for Rotaract. So thank you for volunteering, and we really appreciate it. If you have any people, you could also pass them on to Hannah. So, the second announcement is from the Member Engagement Committee, where we're going to be sponsoring a UT men's basketball game suite on Tuesday, February 21st at Savage Arena. The suite holds 24 people, and space will be very limited. Rotary has secured the suite, 24 tickets, which includes dinner and non-alcoholic beverages. The event is primarily for members and spouses or significant others. Look, I believe, to this week's spoke for further details. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you so much, Mark. And thanks for all your work on getting this Rotaract Club started. And Hannah, thank you for volunteering to help them out. Looking forward to the happy hour. Is Keith in the room yet? Ah, there he is.
I apologize. I was waiting on food. I was here on time. All right, 4-way test. Stand up again. Repeat. First, is it the truth? The truth. Second, is it fair to all concerned? Is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendship? Will it build goodwill and better friendship? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. And at this time, I'd like to call Zach Vassar and Ian Malhoit up to the podium to do a new member introduction.
Thank you, President Cindy. It's my great pleasure to introduce Ian Malhoit, who has been coming to meetings for a couple months now. I've known Ian for about 10 years, and I've found him to be a very well-read individual. I found him to be a great listener. I found him to be a wonderful friend. And he is also one of these great downtown pioneers. He and his wife, Alana, and their son, Sully, who I think just turned 11 years old. Yesterday, who is also betrothed to my eldest, live down in the warehouse district. And when he is not advocating for downtown residency or being a financial planner at Ameriprise, he is a big fan of all things hockey. His son is an avid hockey enthusiast. Ian is also a golfer. And I can say that he will frequently beat me. With all apologies, Ian, that is not a very high bar. So I'd like to say, yeah, I'd like to say welcome to Ian as a wonderful new Toledo Rotarian.
Welcome, Ian, and thank you, Zach, for that nice introduction. This month, we have several anniversaries to acknowledge. Mark Uridia is celebrating 23 years as a Rotarian and 6 years here in the Toledo Rotary. Julia Peklevanos is celebrating 24 years. David Waterman celebrates 30, and past President Walt McGee is celebrating 40 years. So if we could give them all a little round of applause. And next up is Kevin Mullen to give us an update as the chair of the annual campaign.
President Cindy, my fellow Rotarians, thank you very much. As we talked about a couple of weeks ago, the theme for this year's annual fund campaign is all in. We want every member of the club to be invested, helping us have an impact. Last week I had the privilege of sitting in for Travis Tangeman chairing the Foundation Advisory Committee and got to see firsthand the real-time impact that your donations are able to have in this community. but I think it's bigger than that. So just a quick update, here's where we're at. I'm going to have Dominic kind of click through the slides here. So we have 71 Rotarian donors as of right now, which is what we refer to as a good start. We're not quite there yet, all right? The total dollars raised, $65,975. Now there's also 71, I think, on the next slide, Dominic. Oh, that means we're at 24.91%. I made this and I can't remember what order they're in. So we're at 24.91%. There's still 65 folks who made a donation last year that have not yet renewed their gift. So consider this your reminder that today is the day to do that. So please make that donation. There's also 149 potential new donors who didn't make a gift last year, have not yet made a gift this year. Those are the folks that I really want to talk to right now. So I love this phrase, large streams from little fountains flow, tall oaks from little acorns grow. I think that speaks very clearly to what our Rotary Foundation is able to do with the grants that we provide. Here's a couple of examples. Over 100 years ago, our club invested in an organization that today is the Ability Center of Greater Toledo. Just last week, a partnership between the Ability Center and TAPA, that our own Rotarian Zach Vassar leads, announced an incredible new endeavor, an adaptive dance program within Toledo Ballet. The start from the Ability Center and that oak tree continues to grow with partnerships like this. Fast forward to, maybe just about 10 years ago, our club made an investment in Metro Parks Toledo, specifically in the Rotary Roundhouse at Middle Grounds Metro Park. That became a pilot test, not just for the Metro Parks, but for our community, to see, can a downtown Metro Park work? I had the privilege of representing Rotary and being in attendance last week when Metro Parks Toledo unveiled the Ribbon, a phenomenal ice rink path in Glass City Metro Park. The investment that we made over a decade ago continues to pay dividends today. Now, we see presentations week after week of organizations that receive grants and talk about the immediate impact that your donations, that our investment as a club has been able to make. But we can see from these two examples, and there are countless others, Partners in Education, an organization that our club founded over 30 years ago. Just in the last few weeks, Lynette Reichel, Alex Dew, a number of other Rotarians have been out in the community speaking to middle school students, helping them make a career decision, start to put a plan together. That's the kind of impact that we're able to have for long term. So I'm asking you all to get involved, and I want to make it really, really easy for you. So if you could all just pull out your phone and just try to take a picture of this slide. I just want you to take a photo. And if something happens to pop up, just click on it. And just follow that through. Follow all the instructions. And maybe it'll give you a chance to maybe click a donate button or put a number in. The key to make a donation to the foundation, so there's a little glitch in our system, and Keith will appreciate me calling it a glitch in our system. For you to donate $100, you actually have to type in 1,000. So you'll get a receipt for 1,000, but trust me, it's a $100 donation. It works out perfectly. So thank you guys very much. We appreciate you being involved and supporting the campaign. Again, the goal is all in, so 100% participation. We appreciate your help.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you to all the Rotarians who attended the social event at the Walleye game this last weekend. From what I've heard, it was a great time, and Jackie has sharing a few of the photos from the night. And I'd also like to remind everyone that tomorrow morning is another one of our coffee connections. We'll be meeting at Sip Coffee on Central at 8 a.m. and it's a good time just to meet up and chat with other Rotarians and get to know each other a little bit better. And now on to our speaker speaker for today. If Tony Washington could come to the podium and introduce Dustin Dale, that would be super.
Thanks, President Cindy. Today I have the pleasure of introducing a new friend in Dustin Dale. A former corporate senior leader, Dustin has become a professional keynote speaker, executive leadership trainer, and best-selling author whose life mission was redefined in November of 2021. Dustin was told that he was headed toward death from an autoimmune disease, and in 4 days, Dustin realized his mission still needed to be finished. Dustin then wrote his first best-selling book, Learn to Lead by Serving, where he shares his knowledge and experience of 10 years leading over 1,000 teams and more than 3,500 persons from major corporate companies. The first book's success allowed Dustin to write and publish his second book, Learn to Lead by Serving 2, a book that tackles very controversial topics relevant to the current workplace. Dustin is assisting companies in realizing that leadership is more than just checking a box, and that servant leadership is about leading with authenticity. Both best-selling books have engaged many audiences worldwide, allowing Dustin to bring his message to all industries. Dustin has been recognized for his passion for leading teams and driving engagement, quickly earning positions of increasing complexity and responsibility during challenging economic conditions as a published author of several articles. Fun facts about Dustin: he is a former professional bodybuilder and still trains. He was born with a stutter and speech impediment, and now he's going to be speaking to you professionally. And he's also a father of his 2-year-old son, who keeps him and his wife, Carrie, very busy. Dustin has committed himself to making Toledo leadership better now and in the future. I have the privilege of presenting my friend, Dustin Dale.
Just want to take a pause to see if everybody would think I would stutter or speech impediment first, right? Awesome. Well, thank you, Tony. It is a pleasure to be here today. And as he said, I migrated to Toledo. I'm not originally from Toledo, so please don't hold it against me. I was born in North Carolina, and I worked for 2 major retail companies in which you both have shopped at, so I will not say the name of either one. But if you've done a home remodel or went in for curtains and linens, you've probably been to either one of those in the past. So we'll put those to the side. It is a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Madam President, for having me, and thank you, Tony, for being such a great friend. And today is probably one of my favorite keynotes to talk about, because it is something that I don't think is expressed enough in 2023, and really over the course of COVID has been a very challenging factor, and it's putting the human back in leadership. I'll say that again real quick. It's putting the human back in leadership. And so often what we see is the metric. We just want to drive towards the metric. It's all about the metric. Can we get growth? Can we get sustainability? Can we tackle market share? And coming from the corporate industry in which I was in, we very rarely talked about the people. The people were second nature. And it's like we come up with all these ideas, but we forgot that it's the people that are going to implement those ideas. That's what servant leadership is. So that's what we're going to go through today, is talking a little bit about the 4 pillars of servant leadership. And just to let you know, this is a keynote that I have not given before. I've given versions of this, but I wanted to save this especially for Toledo. I've traveled quite a bit around other states giving versions of this keynote, but I wanted to save it for the hometown. So buckle up. Let's get ready. How many of you woke up in a good mood today? Show of hands. Beautiful. How many woke up in a bad mood today? Show of hands. Perfect. We got one. Round of applause for that gentleman being honest. And how many of you just decided I didn't wake up to get asked questions today, Dustin? So go on with your presentation. Show of hands. That's okay too. All right. So we're going to get started. We got enough about me, but today we're going to talk about servant leadership. And I have a story that's going to illustrate this. And I brought 3 friends with me today. I have my friend, the surgeon. I have my friend, the VP, and my friend, the CEO. How many surgeons are in the room? Is there any surgeons in the room? Awesome, I can talk about them. Cool. So we'll be good there. What about VPs? Any VPs in the room? Perfect, got a couple of VPs. What about CEOs? All right, we're going to pray for you, CEOs. All right, so we're going to get started. So my surgeon, my friend the surgeon, was an amazing surgeon. He was the best surgeon around, and he did things that people just couldn't imagine could be done inside the room. He was phenomenal. He was doing results and just putting people outside the realm of really just a better life based on what he could do. And so the problem with my friend the surgeon, though, is that he has an ego. How many of us know somebody with an ego? Don't you dare point. I am not getting kicked out 5 minutes in because somebody pointed to somebody in the room. Thank you, Curtis. So my friend the surgeon has an ego, has a really big ego, but he's really good at what he does. But that's going to take place here in a second when we find out his interaction with my friend the CEO. So the CEO's job is to sit down annually and to basically re-up the contracts with the surgical staff. But the CEO is going into this meeting already dreading it. How many of you go into meetings dreading them? I think every hand probably should be up. Some of us have meetings to book meetings. Don't quite understand that yet, but that's okay. So the day comes and my friend the CEO goes in to sit down with the surgeon, and 5 minutes into the conversation, 5 minutes in, the surgeon gets up and storms out of the office. The CEO comes out storming and bumps into my friend the VP. So the VP steps back. It's like, whoa, what's going on here? Like, this is a well-known hospital. We conduct ourselves with professionalism. Looks like a cage match just went off in there. Follows the CEO to the office, pops in. Hey, what's going on? I can't stand that surgeon. The ego drives me nuts. I can't communicate with them. I can't talk to them. It is ridiculous. If they weren't so good, I would fire them. Anybody ever heard that phrase before? Quite a bit. If they weren't so good, I would fire them. So the VP stepped back and said, well, I know I'm not directly in charge of them, but do you think I could have an opportunity to speak with them? CEO is smiling. Please, by all means, go do that. And I'll be right here Monday waiting for you to come back and tell me how unsuccessful it was. Talk about a negative leader. I don't know why I'm friends with him. I probably should ditch him. But we'll see. So the VP is on his way to the surgeon's house the next day and knocks on the door. And the surgeon opens the door like, what are you doing here? This is very uncommon for this type of visit. VP says, I just want to get to know you a little bit more. You're really good at what you do, but there's some things that I want to figure out about you. Like, what drives you? What motivates you to be so good? And I can start by this house. It's immaculate. This is the best looking house on the block. You're probably very proud of it. The surgeon said, absolutely. I came from very broke background. Came from a broke background. My family didn't have a lot of money. And so this house kind of reminds me that just because I came from there doesn't mean I need to stay there. And I actually support my family with my income. Hence why he's so successful. So the VP says, great job. That's seriously beautiful, and thank you for sharing that with me. Do you mind if I get a tour of it? And the surgeon's like, oh, it's Saturday. I'm like, sure, I got nothing else to do. Come on in. Now remember, he has an ego. Loves to show off his house. Big, beautiful house. So VP's going through, and he's looking on the wall. In every other picture, there's this little cotton ball of a dog. In every single picture. And this dog's been to Rome, to Italy. It's been to Paris. It's been to places that have been unheard of. And the VP is starting to like look around. I don't see a spouse. I don't see kids. All I see is this cotton ball in every other picture. So finally through the tour, the VP stops and says, do you mind if I ask you a question? The surgeon's like, yeah, sure. What's up? This dog, I'm assuming it's a dog. I'm not sure it's a dog, but it's with you in every other picture. What's the deal? What's the story? And the surgeon said, well, as you know, I'm very successful. I don't have a spouse. I don't have kids. I don't have time to have a relationship. This dog is the center of my world. It's a rescue dog, and it came from a broke background, such as myself, so I feel the need to take care of this animal. Plus, it's nice to come home and get love without somebody talking to you. We're not going to go there, okay? So, my wife's not here, I can say that. All right, so moving on. So the VP started to notice these things. He's like, okay, so there's a person behind this ego. There's a person behind this successful individual. So Monday comes. VP comes into the office, not cocky, not strolling in with that, I got you. Nope, doesn't do that. Walks in, sits down with the CEO. CEO's grinning ear to ear. So, how'd it go, friend? What's our story with the surgeon? And so the VP sits back. He's like, I just have 2 questions for you. That's all. Number 1, how often do you talk to the surgeon, just out of curiosity? And CEOs, well, 1 time a year when we do the annual performance review. I was like, okay, gotcha. He says, second question, what's the surgeon's dog's name? And the CEO replies, I didn't even know he had a dog. So I want to let that set in for just a second, and that's going to conclude our illustration. And the reason I use that story is because in 2023, that is exactly what we see in a lot of workplaces. Not all workplaces, but we see that, and sometimes we don't recognize that. And so my mission and my life's goal has been to try to put the human back into leadership, and that's why I'm passionate about servant leadership. I will tell you, in the environment in which I came from, it wasn't always that way. If you've been in that corporate industry or the shark eat shark world, you have a friend hugging you and putting a knife in the back at the same time. Happens all the time with leadership. Employees leave because they don't feel valued. They don't feel like they have a service in what they're doing, a mission and a purpose, and yet the leadership continues to pour on them without communication. It doesn't work like that. So what we're going to go through today are 4 easy principles. And the beautiful thing about leadership is your view and my view is going to be different. We're not going to have the same view. It doesn't make you right, me wrong, me right, you wrong. It doesn't work like that. Leadership is unique to every single individual. But there's one aspect of leadership that is yet to be changed, that's yet to be proved wrong, and that's servant leadership. It has withstanded the test of time. And so I want to share a little bit of knowledge of what I've come up with over the past 10 years, 11 years now, and give you 4 solid principles that your company can take back, that you can take back, and really just to get your mind thinking a little bit about leadership. So we're going to start with number 1, lead yourself. We knew that, right? You got to lead yourself. How many of you ever heard the phrase, don't invite somebody to a bad party? Have I ever heard that phrase before? So it was a famous phrase said at my previous employer, and the reason why is because we were heavy in the remodeling business. You'll start to pick up where I work, I promise. We were very heavy in the remodeling business. If you had a bad experience with a window going into your house, and you have a party, and the guests are at your house, and they ask, oh, these are beautiful windows, you just got them put in, right? Let me tell you, friend, let me tell you, they are going to talk trash about your business, about that experience, about the lack of value that was there. So when it comes to leadership, a lot of companies invite employees to a bad party. They don't mean to, they really don't. They just forget what it's like to be a human. They forget what it's like to be on the other end. And sometimes when we get so successful so fast, we forget what it was like to put $5 in the gas tank and try to get it to the next week so you could go back to work. I remember those days as a young, struggling leader coming up outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. I had $5. It was a good week until I got gas and I was depressed again, right? We got to remember that. People are people. So the reason I have, do your vision match your goals? So when I work with leaders, I hear all the time these great goals. They're like, we want to be the best customer service. We want to have the best industry, the best service, and everything that we're doing. Okay, so those are good goals, and that's a good vision. But my question is, where's the people in it? Where's the people? In order for you to gain market share, the vision has to be, I want the best trained team. I want my employees feeling valued. I want them to communicate up and not out. I want to say that again. I want them to communicate up and not out. Employees who are hurt, who are angry, who are enraged, they speak out. But when they feel confident and they can trust their leader, they speak up. And it's okay to do that. And they know it's a safe space. So you have to ask yourself when you're leading yourself, does my vision match my goals? And it's good to have those goals. It's good to want to make money and produce money. We're all out here to make a living. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Not here to down that. But I think sometimes we forget that it's the people that will gain us that money. We focus on every other policy and procedure except for the person. That person's really the policy and procedure that we should focus on. And the second one, does your results match the feedback? This is my absolute favorite part of this, because I've seen results where companies are super successful. They ended up gaining 6 to 7% comps. How many of you would take like a 10% comp this year on your business? I would take that in a heartbeat. Being a speaker, that's great for me, 10% comp. I don't pay anybody except myself. But yet when I hear that feedback, or I see those results, but yet I go ask the company, how do you like working here? Oh, they use and abuse us. We can't talk to them. I have an issue. It gets swept under the rug. There was an inappropriate comment made and nobody did anything about it. So I step back and I say, okay, the results were good, but the feedback doesn't match the results. Meaning you're being very successful, but what's your employees saying? What do they really feel like? And so in the corporate world in which I came from, again, not here to knock it, I started to see that people became the sacrifice for the bottom line, for the profit. I've seen it over and over and over. And in fact, it's kind of what drove me out, because I was a small fish in a very large ocean. And trying to change that's very difficult. So I said, to heck with it, I'll just go speak. Somebody will listen to me somewhere. So number one, lead yourself, okay? Make sure your vision matches your goals, and make sure your people are a part of the feedback with the success. They have to be there. And if you can accomplish that, and you can get that into the system, then we can move on to principle number 2. Build relationships. I know it's kind of hard to see. So this is a study, and I actually had the pleasure of talking with a company out of the United Kingdom that studies human behavior in the workplace. They study neuroplasticity with how leadership works. It's very fascinating. That's like an 8-hour talk, so I promise I won't give it to you right now. But the one thing that was very interesting was, what's the number one complaint you have in your workplace? I don't have enough time to get anything done. And would anybody agree? Am I brave enough? Is your boss in the room? Is that okay to ask that? A lot of employees say, I don't have enough time to get anything done. Okay, so what's the solution that you would like? Well, I'd like for my leader to talk to me more. Wait a minute. Wait, what's your problem? I don't have enough time to get anything done. But what do you want? I want more communication. Those two don't make sense. Wouldn't you think they would ask for more time? Guess what, leaders? 75% of employees want more feedback, not more time. We gotta understand that. We gotta flip that. And the reason why they want more feedback is because they, along the way, at some point in time, try to speak up. They try to say, hey, I'm struggling a little bit. Or the servant leader steps back and notices, I got a goldfish that's not swimming with the rest of the school here. We need to see what's going on. I need to go talk to them. But yet we only talk to them during the annual review, and we sit down and we follow this 17 questionnaire and check the box, and yep, you're doing good. Where do you think you need to improve? But we don't actually ask the real questions. How are you doing at home? What's going on with your family? I heard you just recently had a loss in the family. Do you want to talk about that? Connect with the people. And so if we had more communication and leaders were giving more feedback to the employees, they wouldn't need more time, because they're embracing solutions and not excuses. Employees who think they need more time, and really sometimes they do need more time, but a lot of times they start to come up with excuses as to why they can't get things done, because the leadership is not helping them remove those roadblocks based on feedback. So I want everybody to remember that 75% of employees want more feedback. So if you have a team, and I know there's no bad leaders in this room whatsoever, but if you have a team, maybe just think about that a little bit. What's my conversations look like? Is it, hey, good morning, how are you? Or is it, you know what, I am so thrilled to see you here. You being here has made my day better. Don't be afraid to lead with love. It's okay. Do it ethically. Where's the HRs in the room? I'm about to make everybody start quivering a little bit, all the HRs. Lead with love. It is okay to love your employees. I promise you they're going to love you back. Okay, so if we can get to principle number 2, if we can lead ourselves and build relationships while we lead ourselves, then we can get to principle number 3, which is lead with integrity. This is a very, very slippery slope, lead with integrity. So I did a lot of research to try to find this number, because I knew it had to exist. And it took probably about 3 weeks of studying and researching and talking to different leaders across the world. And when I say the world, I literally mean around the world. I use LinkedIn. Anybody on LinkedIn? Heard of it? Kind of a big thing. Yeah. I use LinkedIn like Facebook. Like I'm the DM guy. I'm like, hey, how's it going? Got a question. See if you can help me. So $359 billion is wasted on resolving conflict because a leader did not act with integrity. So what does that 359 billion really mean? It's legal fees, it's court cases, it's salaries that had to be replaced, it's CEOs that had to step in 3-4 levels below that had no business being in that conversation because that team should have took care of it themselves. That's a lot of money. Think about that. We literally just took that money and threw it in a trash can, all because we didn't lead with integrity. And I don't want anybody to point or raise hands or anything, but I want you to think about, have you ever been exposed to something kind of unethical in the workplace? Just think about it in your head. And when we think about 2023 with diversity, equity, and inclusion, that's really where we see a lot of this come from. We have got to change the way we think about people. We have got to change the way we think about the landscape. It is no longer a square box. There's circles, there's triangles, there's stars, there's diamonds. My wife's in occupational therapy, so if I start to trail off, you'll know why, all these shapes. But we have to look at things differently. So the number one leading source of turnover, it's not more time. It's a little bit of feedback, but it's conflict. Anybody ever have a conflict with somebody in the workplace? Now we can all raise our hands. It's okay. Nobody will get in trouble. Think about it. We have, what, 100 and probably 40 some different personalities in this room, and no two are the same. We have people who are like us and some people who are not like us. But the problem is when we can't resolve conflict, it leads to high turnover. But a servant leader will understand that the consistent training, the consistent conversation, the consistent relationship building, the consistency in them being an ethical leader will eliminate that conflict because they're going to observe it. I promise you, if you're in tune with what your company's doing and what your team's doing, you're going to see it. It's impossible not to see it. But unfortunately, sometimes we get so wrapped up in the metric, we get so wrapped up in everything else that we don't see that there's conflict going in our departments, in our organizations, in our healthcare systems, in our school systems, in every private industry, every public industry. So resolve the conflict, I promise you. And so one of my favorite quotes is the fastest way to lose people in your corner is to put them in a corner. Remember that. The fastest way to lose your people is to put them in a corner. And leaders do that all the time. Hey, Dustin, so-and-so said this sideways comment to me. I don't want to get them in trouble, but it actually kind of offends the religion in which I come from or my background in which I come from. They didn't mean it. It's okay. Those conversations happen every single day. But the servant leader stops and says, first, let me understand why that may have bugged you, and then what can I do to help us become unison, to have a connectivity so that doesn't repeat itself or happen again. Resolve the conflict. And then lastly, we get to number 4, my favorite picture of this. Principle number 4, or pillar number 4 is trust. So that is my 2-year-old son, Bryson, that Tony mentioned earlier. And the reason I use this picture, not a fancy stock picture, it's actually a horrible picture of me, so ignore me, look at my cute son, is because when I think of trust, I think of my son. How many of you have kids, grandkids? Nobody's old enough to have grandkids, I know. Everybody's young in the room. But when my son comes to me, and this picture actually happened when we were building blocks. And my son was struggling. He's 2. He's figuring life out. But these 2 blocks weren't going together. And I said, can I help you? Like, do you want Daddy to help you? He's like, Daddy, help? Kind of looking at me like, duh. Waiting for you to do something, Dad. But he trusts me to show him that these 2 blocks go together. Okay? And if you notice, the word trust in the middle of it is the word us. You cannot have trust without us. And when I came across that, it hit me like a ton of bricks because my child trusts me to teach him to do the right things in life. My son trusts me to teach him how to be a good man, how to be a good husband, how to be a good father, whatever it is he wants to do. He's looking at me. And I can either screw it up or I can set the example. And when it comes to servant leadership, not that your employees are your kids, but they're trusting you. They are watching you. They are waiting for you to step in and say, I need help, Dad. Hopefully they don't call you Dad. Might be a family business. But they're waiting for you to step in. And you have to see that. You have to notice that. So one of the things, the biggest impact in an employee's life is their ability to trust a leader. If employees can trust their leader, I promise you they will go far, far, far beyond what you could ever really offer them. And think about this conversation. This conversation actually came from an individual I talked with on LinkedIn. They were a senior VP, very successful. She was a chief of staff role, just amazing individual. And I said, you could probably be doing a lot more than where you're at. What's the story? Like, it's not clicking. I'm curious. And she said, you know what? I trust my leader. My leader actually sat down and said, you know what? I can't give you a pay raise. We're just not able to do that right now. I can't really get you where you need to go, but I'm going to help you get you where you need to go. I'll write a letter of recommendation. I'm going to call, like, we are going to get you out of here. You're too good for here. You're too good for me. And she said, when he had that conversation with me, I sat back and I'm like, I really appreciate you, wanting to provide for my family and try to get me this pay increase in this next position. I'm not leaving. I'm not going anywhere. I want to stay with you because I trust you. I don't know anybody else. And quite frankly, I don't want to take the time to get to know anybody else. An underpaid employee stayed because they trusted their leader, because she felt valued. She felt like she mattered. She felt like she was actually giving to a greater cause. What if more leaders led like that? What if you were telling your employees, I don't want you to stay here because you're too good to be here. Let me get you somewhere else. And they're like, well, I'm going to stay. Now you have a great employee who's willing to stay. Just think about that for a second. So if we can do those type of thought conversations, those type of rationality, whatever you want to call it. It's just putting the people back into leadership. And these 4 pillars, I have seen over and over and over. I have witnessed them not being done, and I have witnessed them being done. And it never fails when they're done correctly. It never fails. So the last thing I want to leave you with is my top favorite quote. And it's: a leader has 3 characters: the one they live, the one they invent, and the one that they show. And so you have an opportunity. You can either invent one and in your head be a legend. That's what we used to call all my buddies. They were legends in their own heads. You can be the leader that shows that you're a servant leader. You're not here for the glamour. You're not here for the trophies. Or you could be the one that they actually live. So pick which one you want to be and just stick to that. But I hope that it's one of a servant leader. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Dustin? If so, come to the floor, Mike.
Hi, great presentation. Thank you so much. But I do have a question, because I used to be the VP, now I'm the CEO. The type you mean, not the person. How do you, at the end of the day, your relationship with the employees, believe it or not, especially when it becomes legal issue, it's unequal. How do you balance that will and that leadership quality to connect with your employees on a human level with the legality of the fact that the relationship is not equal and it can come back and bite you at the end? Thank you.
So fantastic question, absolutely. I'll tell you, just not to digress a little bit quickly, but really in the military is where we see this. So I was an ROTC and I was planning on enlisting into the Army, and I did not. But the reason I choose to start the answer this way is because in the military, you have your senior commanding officer, but yet you can still have a relationship with them. But when time comes, it's step in line, yes sir, yes ma'am, let's get to war. Let's go, ready to roll. And it's because they build that relationship. So I will tell you, there are the ethical boundaries we have to operate in. I mean to respect those at all costs. But you'd be amazed what happens if you just ask somebody, what's going on? Like, what can I remove from you? Like, what is your biggest burden you have working for me? Right? So turn it back on you to make it about them. So back when I used to sit down with my employees, and I did the annual reviews, but except I threw away the scrap paper they gave us, and I just asked 5 easy questions. I won't go through all 5. But the number one question that seemed to connect with all my employees the most was, what do I need to do better as your leader? Like, where am I lacking? Like, what drives you nuts about me? And they're like, your hair, it's goofy. Okay, I'll get a new hairdo. So just something to think about.
Do you have any thoughts about reversing the role of the employee or the younger person, teaching the leader to become a servant leader?
I have lots of thoughts, being a young guy myself. No, that's a very good point. I'll tell you, number one, we have to respect the generations that were before us because they did pave the way for us to be able to have these positions. Number two, though, when I do work from consulting side, I don't want to get into that too much, but when I do kind of receive that feedback, it's typically the younger generation is trying to show the experienced generation, like, we can make this a little bit easier and a little more efficient and save us a little bit more money. And so I'd say both parties, number one, have to be open to conversation and communication, and it goes back to building relationships. If neither one is willing to build a relationship, it's not going to happen. But I do encourage leaders, 35-year veteran leaders plus, let your youngest employee just sit in on a meeting that they're not supposed to sit in on. Tell them, be quiet, don't act like a fool. But I want you to come to me with ideas when we're done. Like, what did you see that you would do better? And you'll be surprised what you'll find when that happens. So, great question.
Hi, Dustin. Thanks for being here today. I have a question for you. I have a young man I hired a couple years ago who is a wonderful young man, a great employee. He's got a stutter. And when I was interviewing him, he thought that was going to hold him back. I don't think it has at all. My intention from the get-go was to never fix his stutter, but to try to create an environment where those working with him could accept him for what he is and just kind of accommodate that stutter. And this may be another conversation you and I can have, but I'm wondering if you might have any insights to that, suggestions for us as a club today, as I think we probably all have friends or know people that maybe have a stutter.
Yeah. So number one, you got to learn the story about the stutter. It's very important. Some people, according to my wife, she's the doctor, I'm not. According to my wife, you can kind of have some genetics play into the stutter, some genomes that just don't connect with the neural pathways in your mind. Mine came from bullying. So my older sister actually used to beat me when I was little, and I would be so afraid around her, I started to stutter. So the reason I share that with you is because when you learn where the story comes from, then you can start to address the root cause of it and give solutions. So maybe an individual was bullied growing up, and they don't have confidence to speak because of that bullying. Or maybe they just need to work with a speech therapist, and this is where you can get into what the company benefits provide. So I do know some companies that do provide communications training for individuals who want to gain more confidence or that have a speech impediment or a problem and try to help them overcome it.
Okay.
Kudos to you, though. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for an awesome presentation here, Dustin, and I hope everyone has something that they could walk away with and find useful. In appreciation for your time in the presentation, I'd like to give you this book, Historical Tales of Toledo, that was written by one of our past presidents, Clint Mock. And we will also be making a donation to our Polio Plus Fund in your name. So thank you. I hope all of you will join us next week on February 13th when we'll be joined by Jacob Schoen, who will be talking to us about the Native Plants Program at the Toledo Zoo. As you may have noticed, the scanner for our name badges was not working when you came in. To help Jackie keep track of who was here today, if she's cleared a space away on the table as you exit out there, if you could just leave them there and she'll put them away in the name tag rack. And I'd like to thank all of the guests that were here today. I hope you join us again in the future. And for our visiting Rotarians, thank you for joining us. And with that, we are adjourned.